I was talking to a potential client the other day, and I really loved the way that they described why they were looking for a life coach. And I will quote this. The client said she's been in a tough place for a really long time, and she's tried different things, and now she wants to thrive instead of survive. So she's ready to thrive instead of doing what she's been doing, which is just surviving and making it through each day, but recognizing that that's not actually living. And I wanted to share this with you because I find it interesting, and I applaud her for her, even just to have the level of awareness to notice when you are not thriving and not living in an uplifted state, and when you notice that you're going through day-to-day just in survival mode. So in survival emotions, which are anxiety, fear, stress, worry. And rather than living in emotions where you can enjoy the moment and you can feel joy, happy, calmness, peace, stillness, all of those things. And that's the difference between thriving and surviving. And I just loved the way that she put that. And the first part is just the awareness and getting to that point where you realize that your day-to-day is mundane and you are really just going through the motions in a survival state. And once you have the awareness of it, I think the next step is really being brave enough to admit it. And once you say it out loud and really notice that you are not living from a state of flow or joy. It doesn't even have to be joy, but when you're no longer feeling excited to get up or motivated to go do the job that you do every day, or you're not engaged in anything, like if there's nothing that you have in your 24 hours a day that you feel truly engaged in, where you're present, you're enjoying it, you're attracted to it, it's really lifting you up and giving you energy, then if you're not feeling that way about anything and engaged in anything uplifting, then you are living in the survival emotions and survival, just the day-to-day emotions. And that usually happens when we become overly worried or overly anxious or overly stressed or overly full of fear. And when that has gone on for too long, then it becomes a habit. It becomes something that is just your automatic way of living every day. And you can go through months like that. You can go through even years like that. And the longer you go, the more ingrained it is in your body and your emotions, in even your neurology, the way that you wire your brain becomes a habit to live in a state of survival and not being engaged. So my question to you today is, where are you at? It can be a scale of between the two, between thriving and surviving. It doesn't have to be that you're fully at one end or the other, but I really want to ask you, where are you in the state of thriving day to day? Where are you the most engaged and uplifted? And what areas of your life do you feel that you're just repeating robotically and automatically and not really engaged in it as you're doing that day to day? Because once you are aware of it, and then once you can actually recognize it and say it out loud and admit it to yourself, then what's next is change. So the only option from there is you might be able to skip through a next few more months, maybe living like that. But when you really recognize that you're living day to day, not happy and not engaged and not fulfilled and not creating anything that really lifts you up and gives you energy, then you're not going to want to do that for much longer. And that is the best place to be when you're really ready for change and you're really ready to make a move. And it can be in any area of life, or it can be in every area of life, because eventually it spills over into everything. So I really encourage you to notice and recognize where you are at right now, how you're feeling on a day-to-day basis, and figure out where you're engaged and where you're disengaged, and figure out what are the things that you are just putting up with and just maybe even holding on to things, trying to keep them feeling like you're keeping things together. But again, that's just survival, and that's not what we were meant to do. That's not what we were put here for. That survival is meant for very short term, when you need to get through something short term. But when you notice that a few years have gone by and you're still in the same situation or still feeling the same way, then it's really time to recognize that and make a change. There are so many different ways you can do that, but it takes you really being willing to open up and admit where you're at and be willing to make the change and reach out to the resources that you need to reach out to, whether it be having a life coach or whether it be trying the intentional mornings program or doing it over and over again and until it really sticks. There's so many different ways, and I'm just naming the things that I use, but it's even like creating new habits, getting yourself out there to do the things that you used to love. So whatever it is for you, if it's doing cross-country skiing, or if it's motorsports, or if it's going for walks and hikes outdoors, or if it's doing yoga or a really hard fitness class that just energizes you, or being creative, going to an art class, or doing something where you're using your creative skills and being present while you're doing it. And as soon as you start choosing those things and choosing those things where you're engaged, being engaged means you're present, means you're mindful, means you're fully focused and aware of what you're doing in that moment. And that is the first step to actually shifting yourself out of survival mode and shifting your habits and shifting the way that you have been for however long, not engaged in life. I know that this may not be for everyone today, but I do want you to take it in, be honest with yourself, recognize that it might not be every area of your life, but even if there is one area where you can make this change, I really recommend it, and I really encourage you to look at it, dig deeper, do some writing about it if you want, or reach out to me, leave a voice note here in Telegram or wherever it is that you feel comfortable to reach out. Send me a private message and let's get you started on whatever it is that you need to move from and get you into the uplifted forward motion momentum of making the changes in your life that you really want to make. I love this being ready to thrive instead of survive, being ready to thrive instead of continuing to live in survival emotions forever. I think everyone could take a look at that and see where they can benefit from it. I'm Laura Varga, LifeDesignCoaching.ca. Thanks for listening.